In a shocking turn of events, IYO Sky has won the Women's World Championship from Rhea Ripley in the main event of Monday Night Raw tonight. Pretty surprising outcome there, although a lot of us were pretty suspicious that something was going to happen, that we could see a title change, because ever since the Women's World title situation has begun in the beginning of the year in terms of who's going to go to WrestleMania, we had that early tease from Ripley and IYO Sky on that first Raw on Netflix. And it felt like those two might be involved in WrestleMania, but IYO Sky wasn't even in the Elimination Chamber. Bianca Belair won that, and with IYO getting her title shot tonight and that match being booked in the main event, Bianca Belair being out there at ringside, the obvious and more predictable route would have been for Ripley to beat IYO Sky and for the show to go off the air with Ripley and Bianca doing a stare down, just, making the WrestleMania match official. And that's all. But John Cena just turned heel 2 days ago. You got to keep the ball rolling here. You got to hit us with something a little bit more than that. So I was hoping we would see something a little bit less predictable than that scenario that I thought was very likely to happen. And that means either something major, like Bianca Belair turning heel, or maybe Jade Cargill doing a run in here, or IYO Sky just flat out winning the championship. And that's what we saw in the main event. IYO Sky actually beating Rhea Ripley. Ripley still remaining winless against IYO Sky in one-on-one matches. And the story of the match was Rhea Ripley having IYO Sky essentially beat, but she starts jawing with Bianca Belair on the outside of the ring because she notices Bianca is cheering for IYO Sky, or Ripley perceives this as Bianca cheering for IYO Sky, and instead of finishing off her opponent in a title match, mind you, she decides to go outside the ring, start yelling at Bianca, shoves Bianca down. Bianca goes and starts grabbing her. They don't really come to blows, but there's some pushing and shoving there. And then Ripley gets back in the ring to finish off IYO Sky, and while she's got IYO, she's still looking at Bianca, talking to Bianca, flapping her gums at Bianca, and she's setting IYO Sky up for a top rope riptide. And I started saying in the watch along just a few minutes ago, I said, all of this jaw jacking is going to cost Ripley. I can see IYO Sky, because at the time Ripley's getting IYO Sky set up for something on the top rope, I'm like, whatever Ripley's about to do here, IYO's going to counter this and win. And it turned out to be a riptide. Sky hit her with like a Hurricane Rana, jumped up, hit the perfect moonsault, and pinned Rhea Ripley 1-2-3, winning the Women's World Championship. I thought it was a great finish, shocking finish. Didn't see that coming. Now it really makes WrestleMania interesting, because as it stands, it's now going to be Bianca Belair versus IYO Sky for the championship. And if that's the case, what does that mean for Rhea Ripley? What is Ripley going to do? And a lot of fans thought that it would be IYO Sky getting screwed and Sky would be added to the match to make it a triple threat. Now with Sky being the champion, if Ripley is going to get into this match, how is she going to get in there? It's not like Ripley was screwed over. This was Ripley's own doing. There wasn't even enough done in here in this match to where Ripley's character could blame Bianca Belair. This wasn't Bianca's fault. This was a champion failing to behave like a champion. When you're in a title match, you finish off your opponent. You shouldn't be blocking out those other distractions. And this was completely 100% Rhea Ripley's fault for losing. So how would she be able to get into this match? What grounds would she have to be added to the match? How would she be able to present this case to Adam Pearce? It would be one thing if Jade Cargill ran in, or if there was a heel turn, or if something happened that just screwed over Rhea Ripley, but Ripley screwed Ripley, nobody else. So she can't even blame Bianca, and I think it would be really weak if that's all it took, was Ripley crying, and then Pearce is like, okay, we'll make it a triple threat. It's got to be more than that. So maybe Ripley demands a title rematch, before, like, I don't know, because back in the day, we used to have the automatic rematches, right? I think those are a thing in the past. But I think for certain champions, when you lose the title, you should still remain the number one contender. So should Ripley necessarily have to wait until after WrestleMania? There's enough time to do a rematch and for Ripley to get her title match. And maybe Adam Pearce books that for Madison Square Garden next week, right? Or maybe a different week. And that's where Ripley maybe gets screwed over in the rematch. And then Pierce is like, okay, we'll make it now. And now it's a triple threat. So if you do the rematch with Rhea and Io on Raw prior to now in WrestleMania, and Bianca interferes in that and screws it up, then you would have grounds for the rematch or for the triple threat. You don't have grounds for the triple threat right now. So I think it might have to be a situation where you got to run it back before you get to that triple threat. And then if it's not going to be a triple threat, then what the hell is Ripley going to do? You think this woman is not going to have a WrestleMania match? Hell yeah, she is. So she's going to have to be involved in that in some way. But either way, congratulations to Io Sky, who has won the Women's World Championship tonight, beating Rhea Ripley in a shocking finish. Shouldn't be that shocking. She's, never lost to Rhea Ripley, but being this close to Mania, I saw how WWE was kind of hinting that Io Sky was going to be involved, but I was like, I just don't know how she's going to get involved in this, with this Ripley and Bianca match. So I think Ripley and Bianca straight up, I saw problems in that because of how they didn't build it and tease it throughout the whole year like I was hoping they would do when we would finally get to these two facing each other. So now if this has been changed somehow, I actually think that's for the better. And we'll see if there is some sort of a triple threat. Now, is Rhea Ripley injured? Probably not. She was doing was she favoring anything in the match tonight? I feel like if she was good enough to work this match, she would be good enough to work through whatever injury she has and get through WrestleMania and then take your time off. But that's just a guess. I don't know what the situation is, but Rarely Even is speculating in Super Chat that it might be an injury. It might be. The other Super Chats that are coming in, I will get to them. Actually, just one more. Let's knock out this one from Mike. Thanks, Mike, for the 5. As much as I love Io, Rhea and Bianca are the leader and Trish of this era. Should have just been one-on-one main event on night 1. I agreed with that, but I felt like Rhea and Bianca could have had much more hype than what it felt like they just kind of threw together at the last minute. I kind of want these women to be in separate universes, but kind of both dominating in their realms. And then at the beginning of the year, you set them on a collision course for Mania and you kind of tease it throughout the year and you get the fans kind of talking about it. I just wanted I wanted it to be a bigger deal. Like if Rhea and Bianca are going to main event to WrestleMania, I want that plan to be like a year out. So it felt like everything Bianca did with Jade this year, Bianca and Rhea was kind of out the window. Like that ship had sailed, but then they got back to it really last minute here. And now I don't want to see it as much. So I'm okay with them changing this up. I don't have any issues with it. Is Io Sky a transitional champion, Rarely Even? Maybe. If they want her in there to pass the belt to Bianca in order to preserve the one-on-one Ripley and Bianca match for the future, maybe next year's WrestleMania, maybe. So hopefully, but Io's too good to be a transitional champion. She is absolutely top ring work in the company, as Evan is saying. I totally agree with that. She's phenomenal. So she shouldn't be a transitional champion. She shouldn't be a woman who they're giving the title to because she's been in the company for so long and she deserves it. No, she's really good. And she's top 3 in the company, in my opinion. She's really fantastic. So, or top 5, I should say. So I love that Io Sky won. I love the swerve. I do. I was happy that they went in that direction. But anyway, this is your Monday Night Raw review. Tonight is March 3rd, 2025. I thought the show tonight was pretty good, even though coming off the heels of Elimination Chamber and with that entire John Cena heel turn and all that, we knew we weren't going to get John Cena on the show this week or tonight. We probably aren't even going to get the John Cena on Friday Night SmackDown because I think he's off doing something. So it might be another week before we get Cena on TV to offer his explanation. And when we get that, it's going to be interesting to see how he looks. He better not come out there in the jorts and the bright blue shirt. He's got to be in a suit. I would love for John Cena to grow some facial hair. Imagine Cena with a beard. And if he's not going to be on TV for a week or two, he's got time to grow himself one, or at least a small one. And coming out looking completely different, maybe if he's got that old heel theme that they created for him 12 years ago, dust that off, resurrect that, and have him come out with a whole new look. And that's going to be really interesting when it happens. But it did not happen here tonight. Nobody really was expecting it to, but WWE was going to be recapping the hell out of the John Cena turn, and they did. They replayed it 3 or 4 times throughout the course of the show tonight. And when John Cena returns to TV, it is going to be very interesting when that happens. It might be 1 week from tonight on Raw next week, or it might be 1 week from Friday. And then after that, I think somebody brought up that that's going to be the last show in the United States until April 4th in Chicago, because WWE heads overseas. So I'm hoping we get a little taste of John Cena before some of these overseas shows happen, but we will see. But no John Cena on the show tonight. It was mostly going to be Gunther and Jey Uso, and we knew we would hear and see Bianca Belair. Now, the show opened. Oh, it was so great. What a great way to open up Raw tonight. You've got a pissed off CM Punk storming to the ring, and he just makes a beeline right for the ring, grabs the microphone, hops up on the announce table, pulls the thing off, is kicking all the shit off the announce table, and he is on absolute fire in his promo. He is mad, mad, mad. And he said it's going to be great for me and bad for everybody else. And he just starts asking, who should I address first? Which one of my enemies? And Pat McAfee was like, The Rock. And then Punk just rips The Rock apart, looks right in the camera and calls him a bald fraud. And then he moves on to John Cena, and then he moves on to Seth Rollins. So Punk said his piece about The Rock. That was great. Talked about John Cena and their history. You could tell in the Elimination Chamber match that these two guys still have that chemistry. Their rivalry is spanned, a long time now. And it's going to go down as one of the better ones in WWE. And I think you absolutely have to do John Cena versus CM Punk on pay-per-view this year. And my pick for that pay-per-view would be Money in the Bank. John Cena and Money in the Bank and versus Punk at Money in the Bank. 14 years after that classic in 2011, right when this YouTube channel was in its absolute infancy. All these years later, running that one back at the same pay-per-view would just be incredible. So I'm hoping it happens at Money in the Bank. You could do it at SummerSlam, sure, but Money in the Bank would just be super fun to me. So Punk and Cena, they will be seeing each other this year, and that's really exciting to think about, especially with Cena being a heel. And then Punk brings up Seth Rollins, and he says, Becky Lynch, you better come get your husband because he's going to be in a wheelchair. And then Rollins' music hits, and then Punk and Rollins just run right towards each other, and we get one of those big brawls, huge pull-apart brawls where they break away from the security 3 or 4 times to get back at each other. They're brawling all through the entrance, through the crowd and the ringside area, and security is struggling to keep them apart. Adam Pearce is out there going nuts. So it was a really, really great start to Raw, and I think Punk really brought the right amount of energy to start this show off because he was pissed and you could feel it. His promo was fire. He was just in the way he was just in the camera. You could feel that he was mad. And he did say one little interesting tidbit right at the beginning. He said something like, you thought that I've exhausted all of my opportunities to main event WrestleMania. So he's still talking about that. So I don't know if this favor can still get him in there somehow, or if Punk might wind up being the third man, if there is a third man, since The Rock had 3 at Bad Blood, then 2 at Elimination Chamber. So if there's one more still to join, maybe that's what it's referencing. Who knows? That's a whole nother thing to think about. But with Punk now saying that, it's like, well, is there still some sort of an outside chance? But I think it would be better if he stayed out of that situation, because with Cena as a heel, that's going to make the whole issue with him and Cody really interesting. The only thing that it might do is make the match a little bit predictable now. I mean, are you really going to do this heel turn with John Cena and have him lose to Cody? After Hulk Hogan joined the NWO, was the Giant going to beat him at Road Wild? No. It's like Cena almost like absolutely has to win the title now. And it would be pretty shocking if Cody wound up winning, even if Cody had Stone Cold Steve Austin show up for him and give The Rock a stunner. Even if all that happened, I feel like Cody's got to lose the championship. So maybe in order to make that happen, there's one more shoe to drop. There's one more big surprise. And maybe that third man shows up and helps John Cena. Maybe it's Drew McIntyre, who on night 1 disposes of Damian Priest and then shows up in the main event of night 2, helps Cena win, and joins Cena and The Rock. And The Rock forms, a faction that's going to be the modern era's NWO. At some point, maybe leading to a match between Rock and Cody that I also think is going to happen. And if The Rock creates some sort of faction, that has the backing of a TKO board member, and you've got this big defection in John Cena, who just turned heel, biggest heel turn since Hogan. If you ever want to create a new version of the NWO, because the NWO is getting more and more dated with each passing year, you have a whole generation of fans now who weren't even alive when that shit was going on. So, unlike my old ass who was in his 20s, and I remember it fondly, but you need something for the new generation of fans. This generation of fans needs their NWO. They've gotten their big heel turn. Cena and Hogan, those are very similar in how they turned, especially since you did hear about it a little bit. We were talking about the potential of John Cena being the corporate champion, turning heel. I was dismissive of it. Prior to Hogan joining the NWO, there were rumblings of Hogan turning heel. It's not like this was a brand new idea that we first saw when it happened. Even Bobby Heenan said, whose side is he on? So those things were out there, but just the execution of it was where the disbelief comes in. It's like, I can't believe they actually did that. So maybe this generation is getting their NWO that we've seen lots of versions of. It's like a Millionaires Club type of thing or whatever, but maybe just done better than all of that. And maybe this is what it's going to be. And it takes something major like John Cena turning heel to get something like that over to that degree. And now Cena is going to be like Hollywood Hogan. And this has potential. It felt big when it happened. It was executed, I think, to perfection. And it was all just done really, really well. It came off as well planned. And that gives me a ton of comfort for WrestleMania, especially now that we're starting to put all this together in your mind. I'm like, okay, they just didn't come up with this yesterday. This has been in the plans for a while, and that's good. That's what you want. You want the show that you see executed on TV to be in the planning stages for many, many months, and that definitely was apparent with what they did. So that was all fun, and we'll see how it all shakes out now leading into WrestleMania with John Cena and Cody. But in terms of Punk, him and Seth couldn't keep their hands off each other tonight. So we even talked about it before it was announced. Hey, Roman Reigns has got to factor into this too. Right now, where we're sitting, it looks like that is going to have to be the match. Punk, Roman, and Rollins. But Punk and Rollins were so at each other's throats, it almost makes you feel like that's your WrestleMania match. And somebody in the chat, credit to them, whoever it was, said, hey, why don't you just book Seth and Rollins next week on Raw, and that's where Roman comes back. And that's what they did. Later on in the show, Adam Pearce announced when Rollins and Punk got at each other again and had to be pulled apart, Adam Pearce, I think he told Seth Rollins that it's going to be Seth Rollins and CM Punk, or maybe he told them both when they were being pulled apart again, that Seth Rollins versus CM Punk next week on Raw from Madison Square Garden inside of a steel cage. And that will be where Roman Reigns comes back. And that's how we kind of set it up in the chat earlier. We kind of had that whole scenario laid out. You got to book a match between them and have Roman come in and fuck them both up. Now, all three men want to kill the other. All three men hate each other almost equally, even though Roman and Cena kind of teamed up. I think that triple threat presents a lot of opportunity. Even though maybe at first we didn't want to see it, now maybe it could be good. So I think at Madison Square Garden next week, Roman Reigns will show up. And I think if you're going to have a winner here, because there can't be a DQ in a cage match, right? So the cage match means we're going to have a winner. And I said that Seth needs to get his win back. So he might just get his win back next week in the cage, maybe with Roman interfering or something like that. And then Roman starts attacking Seth. Now that's our WrestleMania match. Roman, since Rollins beat Punk, and now he can consider that demon exorcised, now he wants to face Roman. But Punk isn't done with either of those guys because he's not done with Seth. He doesn't feel like Seth beat him legitimately enough, and now he's pissed at Roman for interfering. So he goes to Paul Heyman, gets the favor to be put into that match, and that's how it becomes a triple threat. It's probably going to be some sort of a scenario like that. But one thing we know for sure is that Punk and Rollins will be in a cage next week, and Roman Reigns absolutely has to show up and interfere in that thing. I believe that he will. So, or he comes in after the match or during the match, something like that. In that cage match, we'll see Roman Reigns next week. Gunther was in action tonight. He took on Otis one-on-one, and it was a relatively competitive match. Gunther got the win. It was a match that during the entrances, during the watch-along, I said, what's going to happen is Gunther's going to beat Otis, and then after the match, he's going to continue to beat down Otis. Tozawa is going to enter to try to save him, but Tozawa is going to get beat down, and after Gunther lays them both out, Jey Uso's music will hit, and he'll come out, and that's literally exactly what they did, and Jey attacks Gunther, but Gunther is able to turn the tables on him and choke him out in a sleeper hold. And then later on, Jey Uso with a very emotional promo, talking about how he's doubting himself and whatnot, looking right into the camera. Good stuff. I don't know who these fans are that say Jey Uso can't cut a promo. The hell he can't. He's better than your ass. Very good stuff from Jey Uso tonight. So I like that. We had Kathy Kelly interviewing AJ Styles. And Karrion Kross kind of showed up. He's acting all weird around everybody right now, kind of acting like everybody's devil on the shoulder. And AJ says that he's going to call out Logan Paul next week in Madison Square Garden. So that right there tells you that that's going to be your WrestleMania match. We were wondering what Logan Paul was going to do. I don't think AJ Styles was really on my radar, but it's going to be Logan Paul versus AJ Styles. And I think there's a chance, probably a good one, that Logan Paul wins that. Wouldn't be surprised. We had the Intercontinental Championship on the line tonight as Lyra Valkyria defended against Ivy Nile. Ivy Nile, who I believe lost the number one contenders match to Dakota Kai a couple weeks ago and then got the title shot anyway. So why didn't Ivy Nile just win the fucking number one contenders match? I don't get it. Not a bad match, though. Actually pretty fun. Lyra getting the win and retaining the championship, hitting her finisher on Ivy to pick up the victory there. I had speculated, since that match was going to be concluding at the top of the hour, I said, hey, if we're going to see Becky Lynch come back and have a match at WrestleMania, that needs to happen like right now. We're running out of time. I don't know what she's going to do unless she comes back on the go-home show and she's inserted into a four-way IC match. Maybe Lyra starts lining up a fatal four-way for Mania, and she's got her two opponents picked, and then there's still one more, and then Becky shows up on the go-home, and that's it. But I kind of thought that since this match was concluding at the top of the hour, Lyra would win, and while she was celebrating, we would see the return of Becky Lynch, and she'd come out and have a stare down, and that would be our match one-on-one for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. But since she didn't do that, I'm starting to think that we're not going to see Becky Lynch until the Monday after WrestleMania. And that might be fair, or have her come back at WrestleMania. Maybe come back at WrestleMania or the Monday after WrestleMania. I feel like it's going to be those two, one of those two now. Because in order for her to come back, she's going to have to get back here, start a feud with somebody, and, have it worthy enough of being a WrestleMania match. No, I feel like Becky Lynch just returning at WrestleMania would be better. So maybe they do something fun. Maybe she comes out and costs Charlotte the match against Tiffany or something like that. How fun would that be? So I'm kind of hoping that if we see Becky Lynch, she either returns as a surprise at WrestleMania somewhere or the night after on Monday Night Raw. That's my guess. Ludwig Kaiser had a promo. He called out Penta. They had a brawl in the ring, and Penta got the better of that, and Ludwig Kaiser retreats. It should be noted that Rey Fenix is officially a free agent as of today. He is no longer with AEW. I don't think anybody really knows what the case with that is, how he got out of that deal a little bit early, but there has been an agreement made, probably some sort of an NDA was signed there to where he can't go on a podcast and talk about that inhumane behavior he was experiencing there. So sounds like it was all worked out there, and he should be showing up in WWE at any point. So if he can be here in time for Mania, then maybe you put Penta and Phoenix together. Also, Chad Gable is farting around Mexico looking for the secrets of Lucha Libre wrestling. He ran into like Mr. Miyagi in the in the vignette there, but maybe they tie Phoenix into this now. Maybe he comes across Ray Phoenix or something, and Phoenix trains him to face Penta. I don't know. But Chad Gable is still on his mission. Now, in his absence, he had instructed his cohorts, Ivy Nile and the Creed brothers, to come away with championships. Ivy Nile came up short. Creed brothers also had a title shot tonight against the War Raiders, and they lost. War Raiders beat them straight up to retain the title. It was a very, very slow start to the match, but it picked up at the end, and the fans finally got into it, and it was a big win and victory for the War Raiders, who retain. Rey Mysterio had a promo or a little vignette where he announced that next week it would be New Day taking on Rey and Dragon Lee in a tornado tag. So we got that coming to us next week from Madison Square Garden. We had Finn Balor addressing Braun Breaker, and Breaker did the same up in an interview with Jackie. I'm not sure if that was a commercial or not. And then I think Dom and Carlito tried to attack Breaker, right? There's a little bit of a scuffle there with those guys. And I'm not sure if Balor is just going to be one of Braun Breaker's opponents at WrestleMania or what they're really doing here. They kind of teased AJ a little bit too, but looks like AJ is going to be doing the Logan Paul thing. And earlier on in the night in the Judgment Day's locker room, you know, Balor was talking with the Judgment Day members, and they keep bringing up this new member. So, you know, I feel like maybe it's going to be Aleister Black coming in to replace Finn Balor. I feel like that's the direction they're going in. So the Judgment Day is probably going to wind up turning on him, but it just depends on what Balor's current story is going to be, if he's going to be one of these contenders for the IC title, or if they're going to book this match on Raw and maybe you bring back Aleister Black a little bit early, or if you do all of this at WrestleMania, that could also be pretty fun. But I think with Aleister Black, I wouldn't debut him at WrestleMania. He'd be more of a Monday Raw after Mania. Becky, I think you bring back at Mania. Aleister the Monday after. That's what I would do. Now it's time for the main event. We just talked about that. Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky. Bianca Belair was there at ringside to watch. And Rhea Ripley was her own worst enemy there. Too concerned with Bianca Belair. Allowed that to be a distraction. Talking smack, overconfident. Allowed the very capable Io Sky to counter the top rope Riptide and wind up beating Rhea Ripley and winning the championship in a shocker just a few weeks before WrestleMania, turning that whole situation upside down. And now you have to wonder if they try to make that a triple threat. And for those who were listening earlier, I feel like if they're going to do that match as a triple threat, you have to run Ripley and Io back first on TV and then have Bianca interfere and screw that up. That's the only way a triple threat would make any logical sense, because Rhea Ripley got beat straight up. There's nothing that happened in this match that was unfair to Ripley. All she had to do was not give a shit that Bianca was clapping, and she'd still be world champion right now. So she has no case to Adam Pearce if she's going to demand that she's added this, because Pearce should be like, no, fuck you. You were an idiot. You lost. You deserve to lose. So you're not getting into that Mania match. But what I can do is book you in a rematch next week, because you are a former champion, and former champions deserve rematches, so you get one, but it'll be on Raw. Maybe that's what they're doing. Or if they're bringing Aleister Black back in time to do Black versus Balor, that's a good idea, rarely even. That's also a good idea. Let's scroll up here and knock out some of these super chats that I might have missed while I was talking. I think they're all from you, rarely even. I got those two. 5 more from you earlier. Shouldn't there have been a disqualification when Bianca shoved Rhea? Maybe. Oh, I see what you're saying. She shoved her. I don't know. That's referee's discretion, I guess. But probably. 5 more from you, rarely even. Cena should go full Heisenberg, shave his head and grow a goatee and wear the hat. Oh, hell yeah. I'm into that. 5 more. Could Ricky Saints win the NXT title before his run is up there? Could be even get a Obafemi up to the Rochambeau? No, he could not. I am calling it now. Ricky Saints would not be able to get Obafemi up in the Rochambeau. No way. 5 more from you, man. Thanks, dude. I think Cena should have a heel redemption arc similar to what Hogan had in 02. He has 10 months left, split it in half, 5 as heel, 5 as face. I'd go redemption right at the end. I feel like right in the last 2 or 3 months there, then you do it. Because I think at some point, The Rock is going to be overstepping his bounds on Cena too. He's going to treat Cena like he owns him, and that's probably an easy setup for Cena to see the light. I mean, Austin, when he turned heel in 01, it was about the same length. He was heel at WrestleMania, and then by the time we got to December, the night after Survivor Series, he was babyface again. So it might be something similar. What I really want to see, too, from John Cena at some point is for him to beat the absolute holy hell out of R-Truth. That would just be wonderful. Yeah, anyway. Well, that was your Raw tonight. In a nutshell, I thought it was a fun show, and I loved the fact that we got a title change at the end of it. It was good stuff. Ricky got Powerhouse Hobbs up for the Rochambeau? Okay, Powerhouse Hobbs, pretty large feller. Yeah, maybe I'm underestimating the power of Ricky Saints. Can't be doing that. Yeah, the demon character's ruined during the match with Roman, yeah, but you could always bring it back. It's Triple H now. All right, guys, yeah, I'm going to be bailing out here tonight. Thank you again for joining us for the watch-along and for the review this evening. Raw was really fun. Trying to think, you probably won't see me tomorrow, even though I am off. But I might put some content up. Otherwise, I'm going to start putting up everything for the weekend. We've got, you know what, you are going to see me. At some point, I'm going to come up here this week and do Revolution predictions. Oh, we'll just bust that out on Saturday. We'll do that on Saturday. We'll do Revolution predictions on Saturday for the podcast, and we will be here on Sunday to watch AEW Revolution. And then we will definitely be here 1 week from tonight to watch Raw from Madison Square Garden. And I know you will see me this week because I got a bunch of stuff I'm working on for WrestleMania. So keep an eye out for shorts, other videos, and I might even pop up in here for a quick stream or a mic drop if we get any major wrestling news breaking. But today, the news of the day was Rey Fenix now being a free agent, and the countdown is on to when we'll see him in WWE. You guys enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. If you don't mind, on your way out the door, smash that thumbs up button for me, and make sure you subscribe. I will see you guys in just a couple of days. Enjoy the rest of your night. Peace.